Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first part of our connected learning for today. It is our science lesson, a continuation of what we started yesterday, talking about shadows. So today we'll have a chance to run your own experiment. All right, so we looked at shadows. We discussed a bit about shadows yesterday. We found out how shadows are formed. It's actually when an object basically blocks the path of light that creates a shadow. I posed a few questions. Why is it important to figure out, to talk about shadows? And I will explain this to you, hopefully, when we get back to school. Otherwise, I'll just explain it in a totally, completely separate video, because there's quite a bit to go through. So, if you go to your PDF, you would have noticed that we skipped page 2 on Monday, yesterday. So, if you have a look at this, it basically gives you a list of the things you need. When you get to watch my video, you will see that I actually skipped a few things, alright? So, I just improvised, okay? So, basically what I would like everybody to have a crack at is actually point 4 here. Okay, to run your own experiment. Once you've run your own experiment, then I'm happy for you to challenge yourself even further if you wish to do so by completing, point 5 in this lesson. And if you really, really, really want to stretch yourselves out, you can have a go at point 6, which basically involves quite a bit of research. Alright, but let's go back to our experiment. So, before we actually even launch into our experiment, okay, so you just need to go through all these, okay? So you need to go through all the instructions in here. What are you trying to find out? Well, we're trying to find out basically if a shadow changes, or what features of a shadows change when we move the object away from the source of light. So you've got all the materials that you need. You have a procedure text here that explains what you need to do and how you need to go about it. Now this bit is very important. In this experiment, we have independent variables, we have dependent variables, and we have controlled variables. Now it's very important that we become accustomed with these, especially as you're going to go into secondary. You will be more and more in charge of your own experiment. So, the independent variables in an experiment is the distance the puppet is from the light source. So, in our case, we will keep moving that object, okay, away from the light source. If this is my light source, we're going to start somewhere here, and then we're going to keep moving it away from that light source. And it says you would change this deliberately. We are doing this to make the observations. The dependent variable, it's dependent, so our results are going to differ as we start moving that puppet, okay? The dependent variable is the size of the shadow on the screen. So as we move that puppet further and further away from the source of light, we will see what happens to the actual shadow on the screen. So we will take measurements there. And then the controlled variables are using the same puppet, using the same light source, keeping the same torch in the same position, and ensuring the screen is held at 90 degrees to the beam of light. So that's what we need to do, okay? We're not going to change these. We're not going to move the screen, we're not going to tilt it, we're not going to touch the screen, we're not going to touch the light, okay? The only thing we're going to touch after this is basically that puppet. In my case, I chose a musical sign, and you can watch the video to see what happens. Alright, so your hypothesis, what do you think will happen? As you move away from the source of light, do you think the shadow is going to grow? Do you think the shadow is going to shrink? Do you think nothing will happen to the shadow? So you need to plug in your own hypothesis here. And then you can actually use this graph here, this table here actually, to measure how far the puppet is from the torch and how tall the shadow is. So it's good to do 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got space for 5 readings. Do at least 3 of them, okay? May not have to do all 5, but do at least 3 of them. And then, okay, draw a conclusion. So go back to your aim, okay? Think about your hypothesis. Was it correct? and actually say, well, I have been able to measure it, and this is what I found out. Okay. Very interesting. Besides the size of the shadow, how else did the shadow change as you moved it away from the torch? Okay, so what else happened? Very interesting. I noticed something with my shadow that I'll share with you in the video. What challenges did you experience while doing this experiment? What was tough? If you were to do this experiment again, what would you change or improve? I already thought about something that I don't think I did quite right, so I could have changed that. But because I never changed the position of the light, I'm confident that the measurements I took are okay. All right? So this is basically your experiment, and what I will do now, I will take the measurements for my experiment, and I will put the results in the box there after this experiment for you to further read this. Okay, so this is basically your science challenge for today, and I hope you have an enjoyable time. And as I said, if you finish with your shadow experiment, then you can go into point 5. And if you really, really, really want to stretch yourself out, you can go into point 6. So point 4 is a must. Point 5 and 6, you should do point 5, and then you choose whether you want to do point 6 or not. Well, if you have any questions, don't forget to post them onto the forums. I hope you have an enjoyable day of learning. I will see you again, either in person on Wednesday or otherwise online. Well, until then, have fun. Bye-bye from me from now. Bye-bye from me for now. Bye.